Welcome back to The Extract. I'm Kyle Meyer, and next to me is you're the Prince of the Santa Lucia Highlands? I don't know, what do they call you? What do they call you?
I don't know, I might leave that to Dad.
Might leave that to Dad. Jeff Pisoni, you might have heard that name. It's a very familiar name in the wine world, unless you've been living under a rock. If you drink world-class Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, the Pisoni family, I don't know if there's too many people better at growing it and making it and probably drinking it, right?
We drink a fair bit of it, so we do pretty well with that too, yeah.
Ah, the French champagne.
It's a pleasure to have Jeff Pisoni next to me today. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Super cool to have you next to us today. I want to jump right into it because we have a lot to go over. Your family's a pretty interesting family. Top to bottom, front to back. So I want to get a little bit, first question I want to start from the beginning. What's it like growing up with Gary Pisoni as your dad?
You know, it was amazing. You know, I could
Right?
say it was definitely not boring
Right.
either. But it was great. I mean, you know, my brother and I were exposed to so much. We had a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We drank a lot of great wine when we were young. He even got us started making wine. If you consider Dad, you know, maybe throwing us in the fermentation tank when we were 3 years old making wine and stomping on something.
Yeah.
But it was great. You know, we saw a lot. We grew up on the farm. And, you know, we started, you know, working in the vineyards when we were young and drinking wine, getting exposed to that. So it was really special. It's great.
Because you were a farming family from the start, not necessarily wine, but you come from a farming family.
Right.
Right.
So my grandparents started farming vegetables in the Salinas Valley in 1950. So when our growing up was, you know, working on the farm doing that. And same for my father, started doing that and slowly got into, as well, discovered wine and started collecting wine, making wine. Yeah.
So he planted, was it 82?
Yeah, 1982 was his first planting. And at the time, you know, he was ahead of his time. There was in the Santa Lucia Highlands, there were a couple other vineyards, not a lot though. And he was one of the earliest to, you know, not just plant grapes, but also to plant grapes for a very high quality focus. And what's neat about that is there was a lot of agriculture, a lot of like larger production going on. But because he started out as a home winemaker, he was making wine since '78 in his barn. You know, he would always think about grape growing when he started in '82 from a quality point of view. And early on, he would, you know, he was up in the mountains and he knew from his, you know, wine collecting days that the mountain tougher sites, what you don't think are going to be very vigorous sites, are great for quality. But he would be dropping fruit early on when his neighbors, my grandparents kind of thought he was crazy for dropping fruit on the ground. But he stuck to that and knew that was, you know, the road to go.
Well, wasn't the Highlands at that time, was it like mostly like Cabernet and Merlot and stuff, right?
It's crazy.
Like he was already a nut for planting Pinot Noir.
Right. There was a lot. I mean, Cabernet was so popular in the 80s that even in cold spots like Monterey County, you had a lot of Cabernet.
Yeah.
Not anymore. It's finally all pulled out. But
Well, you guys had a little something to do with that, I imagine.
yeah,
Just a little
so.
bit, just a skosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so you grew up in this crazy house with your dad, who's a wonderful nut and a passionate dude with a great wine collection. So what kind of wines, so you get old enough, you're like, now did you think, oh God, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make wine. Like, did you have that vision? Like when I was 16 years old, it was kind of weird, like I knew I wanted to be in the wine business. Did you know from really early on where you were
Very
going?
early. Yeah.
Cool.
And so both my brother and I, you know, very early on, we were like in our teens, you know, thinking like, okay, you know, our parents were on the farm. We learned the value of working together as a family and, you know, family business on the farm, especially where you grew up on that land. My brother was always into agriculture, so he wanted to come back, work with the family farm. I was always into the science and the art side of wine, so I was like, I want to make wine and, you know, wanted to study that. So my brother went to school at UC Davis, studied ag business. Continued on to Cornell, more ag business, studied wine, upstate New York.
Yep.
I went to Fresno State, studied winemaking. We came back, and so yeah, since like, I don't know, 16 or so, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
All right. So what were some of the early wines that sculpted what you thought in your mind was great wine?
You know,
What's some of the early great ones you remember?
Yeah,
having?
we were lucky that Dad had a great wine collection, and
which like 18 years old drinking Grand Crus. Yeah.
We did. You know, I know.
No, it's not wanky
Right.
if it comes from your dad's collection, all right? Just to be square. Yeah?
And because a lot of the Bordeaux, you know, because he paid $20 a bottle for him too, so it's not.
Yeah, right.
So what's really neat, he made a scrapbook for me for my birthday one year, And it's a thick book. He used to collect all the labels from all the wines that he drank from all over the world. And you go through this scrapbook. I was, participating in a few of them, but you go through there and you have like an amazing collection, 53 Latours, 82 Petrus. And his comments in there are the hilarious part because he makes all these notes. And it'd be like, oh man, I wish we didn't drink 3 DRCs in one night. I wish I didn't drink that 82 Latour at 3 in the morning. But it was great. So, I mean, as far as like an appreciation for, really, the wines of Burgundy, Bordeaux, and Germany was what he really was collecting and enthusiastic about. So that's what, my fortunately early, exposure and appreciation for wine too came from that.
So that kind of helped you get ahead of the game.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you already had a leg up.
Yeah.
Even when you walked out of winemaking school, like, well, I just want my stuff to taste like that.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
All right. So
easy idea, easy to say.
So your style, how is it evolving right now? Have you found your style? Have you found your warm fuzzy place? Because the wines are absolutely friggin' delicious.
Cool. Thanks.
Right? No, they are. I mean, seriously. I mean, but have you found your style? Are you constantly evolving and changing? Especially being married to another fantastic winemaker in her own right, Bibiana. She's awesome. So, are you learning from each other, or kind of going, hey, well, maybe I should do that?
Yeah.
How does that work?
We totally learn from each other, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So I love her experience and background in winemaking, coming from Colombia, studying in the University of Bordeaux, and working all over France. Loving the wines of Bordeaux and respecting their education. I love the fact what she has done in terms of seeing all that is impressive.
Right.
So I love what we're making now, but I do think we're always evolving too. I think I subscribe to the idea that in order to do really well, you always do need to evolve, to some extent.
Are you seeing? Do you see changes in the vineyards? As the vines get older, like because you're almost there from ground zero with the plantings, with your family plantings and Soberanes and Gary's and Pisoni. Are you seeing these vineyards kind of morph and twist and change as they give you every year? Are you ever getting any surprises in the winery after you?
Well, yeah, for sure in terms of as the vines age and, as what we discover, how we farm, the things that my brother's doing and exploring farming wise. We're very sustainable, but we push that more and more beyond like what's required in a certificate for that. But yeah, in terms of discoveries, sure. As vines age, you watch like their chemistry, change and stabilize. Acidity becomes more stable as vines age. So definitely.
So things are kind of getting a little easier for you as the vines age. They get a little more comfortable and kind of settled in.
I think in terms of vine growth, we find them becoming more in balance as they age. And I guess in what I mean in terms of balance between vine vigor and yield, we see them as they age and we dial in our farming, our ground practices in terms of, tilling, groundwork, cover crop, stuff like that. Their yield their growth seems to harmonize.
Do you find that? Because one thing we haven't really touched on actually through this entire video series, we've had a lot of people in here. One thing that we haven't touched on I'd like to is what is what is Santa Lucia Highlands Pinot Noir and Chardonnay? What would you say are the prime characteristics? I mean, no one would know better based on your experience. Sure. And are those characteristics changing as the Highlands continues to grow and evolve?
Yeah. You know what I would sum up Santa Lucia Highlands?
Besides, and with the caveat that Pisoni's a bit unique because it's way in the hell out there.
Yeah.
It's older vineyards, clonal selections, etc. Pisoni's kind of its own thing, right? Yeah. But I'd say along that.
What is it? Corridor.
Yep.
Yeah. What I would sum it up is in a way to try to describe, not with the flavor profile, but I think vines work very hard. And what I mean by that is it's very rugged soils. It's up on this like lifted bench, a few hundred feet off the valley floor. Decomposed granite soils, which is very gravelly, so it drains very well. It's cold. We open up to Monterey Bay, which is the big funnel. Fog, 20-mile-an-hour winds every day. And it's dry, so an average year for us, weather-wise, we get about 12 to 14 inches of rain.
That's it?
Yeah, that's all. So it's cold and dry. So combine these things, and you get vines that work very hard. And if you think about what that, how that informs the wine, It's vines that struggle. You get, small berries, low yields, concentration. So you have a lot of potential for like intensity of flavor and structure, but at the same time it's cold, so you have the acid retention. So you have a lot of that, a lot of character, and it's obviously our job to manage that and work with that, farming, winemaking, to retain everything and find balance in that. But vines that work really hard, I think, is kind of how.
And working really hard creates that kind of. It's almost like an easy level of concentration in the wines. Like the wines are just naturally rich, but in a cool way.
Right. And it's easy for people to take that too far because you do have a lot of concentration.
Yeah, so you can make pudding.
Right.
You're not
Right. No pudding.
Now, and I want to ask you how that compares, because you're one of the few that has a perspective working both with the Santa Lucia Highlands as well as true Sonoma Coast.
Right.
How's that transition been, helping make the wines of Fort Ross or working for
it's
Fort
great. There as Pinot finds its home on the coastal California, you have each place that it's at has, these big inlets of fog or wind, depending where you're at, everywhere from, Santa Rita Hills up through, Russian River, So it's great. It's good working with both. Very different seasons, obviously, but they're both cool climates. It's fun.
Do you find you have to change up the winemaking a little bit from spot to spot, or?
Yeah, for sure. And maybe which we kind of do block by block anyways, wherever we're working with. So, I always kind of look at things as, as a unique approach. So that's kind of
Right.
the norm.
So you got enough on your plate right now, or you gonna be buying do something else to take over the world? By the way, Jeff and his wife Bibiana make one of the greatest Sauvignon Blancs in America. Well, it's not really, you can't really call it Sauvignon Blanc. I guess you can, but Shared Notes. It's a really super duper wine. It's pricey, but it's the best money you'll ever spend on a Sauvignon Blanc in that price range. I mean, it really is kind of Dagenot-ish, almost kind of, in its intensity. So, are you planning on doing some more stuff in that vein?
We're looking for things. So on Shared Notes, one of the challenges there is finding growers. It's a Russian River-based Sauvignon Blanc and/or Sauv Blanc with Semillon. Challenge is finding growers that are interested in farming really high-quality Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah.
Because there isn't a lot planted, and when you do find it, people want to crop it really high and look to more economics rather than.
Right.
You don't make a lot of money farming low-yield Sauvignon Blanc.
So you got to walk in to a guy and say, I want a third of the yield, and I'm going to pay you X. Right. And he kind of goes,
and they wonder why they wouldn't.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
God, the Pisoni kid's a little wacky. Have you seen it? What's he? Dude, that was a great 10 minutes.
Cool. Thank you.
12. Thanks so much for coming. That was awesome.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Jeff Pisoni, rock star, man.